Hello all, this is Vinay Kumar, Faculty of Sociology and Society at Sarat Chandra Academy. So we in this session are going to discuss, as you all know, that just today in the morning session, UPSC has conducted mains examination. So I am going to discuss the society part. Okay, so in society there are 5 questions. So I am going to discuss about these 5 questions. Before moving forward, I want to, many new aspirants would also be going through this session, and I strongly recommend you to watch this session, although you might not be having idea about these topics, but you will get an orientation. I will not just give a model answer. This session is not a model answer discussion. I will try to give you a holistic understanding of this topic. The reason why we are going to do that is because until and unless you cannot become successful, okay, the journey of UPSC will not be completed without analyzing previous year questions. Previous year analysis of previous year questions will help you to decode the pattern. In this session we are going to decode that pattern. I'll try to tell you how UPSC has asked this and why UPSC has asked these 5 questions also in society. We will be discussing those points. Okay, what made. So when you analyze this way, when you think from this dimension, your journey is going to become easy. And this is what is smart study. Okay, smart study is not reading 10 books. Smart study is looking at the paper of UPSC and trying to figure out why UPSC has asked this question. When you answer why UPSC has asked this question, tomorrow in 2026, when you give next attempt, you will understand that what might be the prospective areas questions might be asked. And always I discuss in an orientation session with respect to UPSC in society. I say that society is a one area which is a low hanging fruit. Means easily you can judge, you can predict, not judge, you can predict what type of questions would be asked. And more or less the test series we have conducted, more or less the classes we have conducted, although the verbatim of the questions might be changed in UPSC, but the themes which has been asked by UPSC reflects our class notes, reflects our questions in test series. Let me tell you how also. So moving forward, UPSC has given 8 questions. So we are going to discuss about these 8 questions. And when I am talking about the pattern, okay, let me talk about this pattern of UPSC in society. Generally, UPSC, first of all, and the study of society. When you are talking about society is a study of under society we are going to study about Indian society. But Indian society has certain static and certain dynamism. On the same lines, every year UPSC used to repeat some questions. Okay, but surprisingly this year we don't see such repetitive questions. Repetitive themes were there. Okay, when you are talking about globalization was always been, every year you see more often than not you see a question on globalization. Once you know globalization, a question has been asked with respect to globalization impact on culture. Like now this time they have asked a question with respect to globalization. Let me read you out this question. Do you think that globalization results in only an aggressive consumer culture? So you will understand that you have to understand that how globalization is leading to aggressive consumer culture. So that next, when it comes to tribal related issue also, always this is one of the favorite area of UPSC, because UPSC has asked about tribal development induced displacement and rehabilitation. Development induced displacement of tribes has been the most recurring theme. So that pattern has been followed. Some themes are being repeated, but there were some questions like you see every time you see questions were being asked with respect to Mahatma Gandhi's contribution towards subaltern groups, and how subaltern groups are, how globalization is impacting subaltern groups. So here they asked about subaltern groups, but here majorly they talked about Jyoti Rao Phule's contribution towards subaltern studies. Okay, so we in our classes dealt in detail with respect to subaltern studies. We discussed about what is subaltern studies, what is this impact of globalization on subaltern studies, we discussed. And here we have seen urbanization is also one of the most recurred topic. So here in this year they asked about how does smart city in India address the issues of urban poverty and distributive justice. Okay, so these are the questions. And also a very good question, very one of the most important question in 2025 was also, how do you account for the growing fast food industries given that there are increased health concerns in Indian society? So when I read these 5 questions, you have to understand that UPSC always ask about these paradoxes. What is this paradoxes? They asked about class the paradox, repeated paradox question about paradoxes is caste static and caste dynamism. Okay, so this paradox have been repeated. You see, when we are talking about the question with respect to smart studies, they talked about rising urban inequality, or you can say that the smart city program, is it leading to urban inequality, or does it promoting, is it promoting inclusivity? Okay, this is a paradox which we can see. When it comes to tribes, the same paradox has been repeated. So development induced displacement versus development induced displacement versus rehabilitation. Okay, we discussed about that. Next, you also talk about when we are talking about the growing fast food industry. Okay, the paradox here was, here they have asked about, like, you know, nowadays people have become health conscious. People awareness with respect to health consciousness is being increased in the society, but unfortunately awareness with respect to health consciousness is being increased in the society. But when we are talking about rising fast food industries, rising unhealthy habits, so the paradox is increasing awareness with respect to good healthy habits is increasing in the society, but exponentially we see unhealthy food habits is also increasing. So this paradox has already the theme of this repeating paradox we've seen in this examination. And we also seen that major themes, the core themes of society has always been repeated. I generally see this paper when it comes to society compared to previous year a bit moderate. Okay, so because the major themes have been repeated. And you know, this when you analyze through after going through this session also, you will understand why UPSC has given these 5 questions. What are the factors, what are the reasons? Okay, anyways, without wasting any time, let us go to the questions. So we'll start with this question. Does tribal development in India center around 2 axes, those of displacement and of rehabilitation? Give your opinion. Clearly, when you read this question, when you go through this question, clearly, when you understand, when you go through the tribes and tribal issues, very unfortunate thing is, you see, the successive governments, you can say that it was the failure of successive governments in understanding what is the root cause of tribal problems. what is the reason for rising tribal problems? Whether it might be tribal conflicts, whether it might be ethnic conflicts, whether it might be conflicts with respect to autonomy, whether it might be conflicts with respect to secessionism movement. So more or less, directly or indirectly, you see development induced displacement and rehabilitation is one of the major reason. Okay, there are other reasons also, but when we are talking about major problems, when we discuss about major problems which tribes are facing, is because of development induced displacement and rehabilitation. For that matter, you see, I don't say we have to understand that I don't say that tribals are not ready to be displaced for the nation's growth. No, that is not the thing. Unfortunate thing is many tribes have led voluntarily led to give way for development. But unfortunate thing is these displaced tribes were not being rehabilitation from their habitation. And for that matter, when you talk about tribes, the uniqueness of tribes is they are the indigenous people. They with that place when you are talking about tribal hamlets in forest, when you are talking about tribal hamlets in rural areas, when you visit those tribal hamlets, you have this unique way of living. From displacing them from that unique habitation, displacing them as they are dependent on forest producers, you are displacing them from forest, means nothing but you are taking away their livelihood, you are distancing them from their culture. This is like worst form of exploitation, and this exploitation intensifies with not able to displace them properly, not able to rehabilitate them properly. You can understand this is like intensification of exploitation. So this development induced displacement and ineffective rehabilitation programs has always been a core contention with respect to the problems of tribes. So let us look about how development induced displacement is leading to development induced displacement is leading to tribal problems, and ineffective rehabilitation is also intensifying the tribal problems. And we will also look this from the perspective of government. Okay, what are the tribal policies which has been followed in India and why it has been ineffective? We'll also discuss this, because when we are talking about this question, you have to understand it is a 15 marker question. So you have to take the liberty in explaining why in India development induced displacement and rehabilitation is recurring theme, is been continuing, why government has been ineffective, how policies of government has been ineffective. We have to discuss that. And as this issue was not addressed effectively, so why these tribal problems, because of this was not addressed effectively, tribal problems are still persisting. So when we are talking about the policies, means nothing but tribal policies. Okay, what should be the policy for the welfare of tribes? So you have to understand that there are two core policies. Okay, so two core policies, these are background idea which I am trying to give. Just you have to write in a statement. Okay, what are these policies I am talking about? These two policies are policy of isolation or policy of autonomy and policy of assimilation. These are the two policies which are the, for that matter, these are the pioneer policies given by anthropologist Warrior Elwin. Okay, policy of isolation and autonomy was given by Warrior Elwin, and policy of assimilation was given by G.S. Gure. G.S. Gure mentioned that the tribes are backward Hindus. They are Hindus, but who are backward. So when you culturally assimilate them with Hindus, the tribal problems can be addressed. So the policy of government should be to assimilate these tribes into the larger into the central India. Means nothing but you have to integrate tribals into the rest of India. That was given by GS Gure. When we are talking about policy of isolation, this was, or autonomy, which was given by Verrier Elwin. He said that as tribes constitute primitive characteristics, their culture is also distinct. So taking this into consideration, you have to understand that we have to maintain autonomy. We have to promote autonomy. We have to give autonomy to these tribes such that they can grow at their own, such that when they enjoy autonomy, okay, the intrusion of other people will not happen. So tribal practices, tribal culture will be protected such that tribes will not be exploited by outsiders. Okay, this was there. So this is the policies which are, what you say, these are the foundational policies. But you know, Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, has integrated these two policies, and he has given the policy called tribal Panchashil. You know, the reason why we have to write these many dimensions is because they asked about 250 words. So in 250 words, you have to write this point, although you have to write very precisely. Okay, you can say that tribal Panchashil, which was formulated by Nehru during 1950s, has the necessary measures. This tribal Panchashil carry the spirit, okay, to address issues with respect to tribes. Because why I'm saying is, tribal Panchashil emphasized on rights of tribes on land and forest. Tribal Panchashil emphasized on rights of land and forest. Tribal Panchashil emphasized on rights of tribes and on land and forest. And tribal Panchashil also emphasized on the right to consent. Right to consent. Okay, for suppose any developmental proposal is being formulated, the consent of tribes is utmost important. The very unfortunate thing is, most of the developmental projects which are proposed in India, whether it might be dams, and whether it might be highways, whether it might be industries, whether it might be mineral exploration, the administratives fail in upholding this right to consent. And tribal Panchashil also says that any developmental proposal in the decision making body, tribes have to be included. Okay, decentralization of power, whereby tribes have to be included in the decision making. The reason for displacement, the reason for development induced displacement is failure in upholding the spirit which is driven by tribal Panchashil. This is the broader theme. Okay, as we could not uphold, we realized that this have to be upheld. Tribal rights have to be upheld. We realized it in 1950s, but unfortunately, although this tribal Panchashil was just remained a theory, it never came into practice, or it came into practice in a later period. That you can see. Then when you introduce your answer in that way, and you have to link that, unfortunately, the majority, you have to write in your answer, unfortunately, majority of the tribal problems are centered around development induced displacement and ineffective rehabilitation measures. That is the reason why we see the diversification of tribal problems around this issue. Okay, although tribal Panchashil has given the spirit, upheld the spirit with respect to addressing the problems of tribe, but unfortunately we could not follow this tribal Panchashil in principle. We could not implement this theory in practice. Successful administration, successful governments failed in implementing that. Then later we gradually realized we emphasized to address the tribal problems. How we have emphasized this? We talked about, PISA Act. Okay, Buria Commission recommended PISA Act in 1996. This PISA Act upheld the right Okay, PISA Act said that you need gram sabas. Through PISA Act we empowered Grama Sabhas. Through PISA Act we have empowered Grama Sabhas, and the consent of Grama Sabha is very much important. We empowered Grama Sabhas. Especially this PISA Act is centered in scheduled areas. Okay, next we formulated Forest Rights Act 2006. Forest Rights Act has also emphasized this emphasized right of tribes, their land rights, okay, and forest. They have the right over forest and forest produce. And next we have to talk about Resettlement and Rehabilitation Act 2007. Through Resettlement and Rehabilitation Act, you have to say that we emphasized on the principle of rehabilitation. Okay, and when they are displaced from their cultural, when they are displaced from an original habitation, rehabilitation is not happening, then it is worst form of exploitation. And the tribal Panchsheel also emphasized on the principle called, if at all rehabilitation of displacement of tribes is happening, the spirit of tribal Panchsheel was that the spirit of tribal Panchsheel, the focus, the vision, aim of tribal Panchsheel said that if at all any displacement of tribes is happening, then you have to relocate them in such a way that they are holistically replaced. Means nothing but you are removing tribes from their original habitat. At least try to replicate, try to strive to provide the same conditions. Okay, you have to rehabilitate them to a certain extent. You have to follow that principle. But unfortunately, no government have able to live up to the tribal Panchsheel. That is the reason why this development induced displacement and rehabilitation created many problems, and that is the reason why around this issue only tribal problems have intensified. Okay, this is how you have to discuss in when. Okay, so the theme of exploitation have to be discussed, the theme of failure of government schemes have to be discussed. Then you also have to say that now we are following remedies. So tribal Panchsheel has been given in 1950s, but when did we formulate PISA Act? When did we formulate Forest Right Acts? So that is the reason why still, like now when we are talking about discuss this theme, and then you have to say that still you see the issues centered around development and rehabilitation is still we see, like when you are talking about Andaman and Nicobar developmental proposal which has been put by further by the present government. Many tribals are opposing, many scholars are also opposing that, because it will be displacing, because the development in tribal areas should be taken consent of tribes. And but you also have to give conclusion saying that recently that Janman scheme, okay, or the recent tribal schemes, PM Janman scheme are in PM Janman scheme is such a scheme which is centered around making development of tribes and without disturbing their original habitations. Okay, so we need to make sure that their development happens without disturbing their original inhabitation, without disturbing their culture. So this is how you have to discuss your answer. As they asked about your opinion, you have to say that although there are many proposals which are been formulated by the government, make sure that displacement doesn't happen. If at all displacement is inevitable, then rehabilitation should be effective. So give contemporary example, always conclusion should be including contemporary example. I have given about Andaman and Nicobar scheme, how I have given about PM Janman scheme. So on the same line, we can talk about recently tourism ministry is also talking about tribal circuits development. That also you can be used. Okay, I hope you have understood the first question. Next, so let us go to second question. How do you account for growing fast food industries? How do you account for growing fast food industries given that there are increased health concerns in modern society? Illustrate your answer with Indian examples. Indian experience annar gani, it is Indian examples. Okay, what do you understand by this question? How do you account for growing fast food industries given that there are increased health concerns in modern societies? Okay, see, you know, in 2020, World Health Organization has given a report that India is becoming the diabetic capital of the world. India is becoming the diabetic capital of the world. From then onwards, you know, the government and for that matter, many nutritional experts, many medical experts have trying to promote what you say healthy food habits and also healthy lifestyle. Okay, but unfortunately you see the pressure of fast food industry is overtaking or overshadowing this. This is the paradox. So first of all, you have to understand that why the question is saying that why do you think, what are the reasons clearly, how do you account for means what are the reasons for the growing fast food industries? Now tell me, what are the reasons for growing fast food industries? Okay, simple ga meer chudandi, I'll give you an example, then you will understand the structure of the demand of the question. Meeru మనం ఏమనుకుంటాము అంటే whenever we go to a movie with kids, you plan that journey in such a way that okay, we go to the movie, we go to a nice healthy place, or we don't eat outside and we come back. But unfortunately, how we plan our trip, one day trip won't end the same way as we plan, because we always plan that, because as we are having very much consciousness, we are very much concerned about health, we plan that we should not eat outside. But the reason why we are eating food outside is because of globalization, because of this advertisement, because of this marketing propaganda. It has driven us, it has driving us from the seat of healthy food habits to fast food industries. When you go to a place outside, you see the advertisement, okay, that you see, like for that matter, not only advertisements, you see Zomato, Swiggy, they will be curating your personalized messages for you. Like, I think that you are missing me. What is that me? Chicken biryani is talking to you. You see that what you say, your phone, you will get a pop-up messages of delicious burger, you get a pop-up message of delicious pizza. You see this marketing and this globalization. So these multinational companies or these food outlets are promoting these fast food chains more. And in India, when we are talking about these fast food centers, 70,000 fast food outlets are there in India. Okay, when we are talking about GDP ratio with respect to this, what you say, GDP ratio with respect to health concerns, how, like you have to talk about lifestyle diseases which has been emerging in India with respect to, when we are talking about lifestyle diseases, how lifestyle diseases is impacting our GDP. The burden of GDP on health is increasing. Okay, so lifestyle diseases are increasing as unhealthy food habits. So what are the reasons for unhealthy food habits? Is one is marketing. We see in aggressive marketing is going on. And I always tell to the students that, see, in the question itself, from society only, there was a question called impact of globalization on aggressive consumer culture. Okay, a good student or a smart student will realize that, definitely when you get a new question paper, you will give a glance. So you have to be that smart to include this aggressive consumeristic culture in your answer on fast food industries, because this fast food industries is promoting this aggressive consumeristic culture. When Swiggy, Zomato is sending you instant curated messages, what is that? It is promoting aggressive consumerism. So definitely UPSC evaluators will highlight that. I ask students to do that when it comes to essay paper, but here you can show your smartness by inculcating that here. This will fetch you good marks. This is what is smartness. This is how you have to show that. Now, so one is advertisement, one is aggressive consumeristic consumerism which is shown by these food outlets. Second thing is, you see dual career families. Because of dual career families, parents are not able to get time to cook food. Okay, and fast food culture is also has become synonymous with modernity or status quoism. Means nothing but youth, although they are not inclined to that, but you see, you want to, for suppose, let me tell you, if you want to give a treat, okay, so generally, how our parents, or how in our childhood we used to celebrate birthdays, is we used to cut cake. That is also a fast food, for that matter. Sugar, it has a lot of sugars, but traditional, our birthdays, we used to offer good traditional food. Traditional food has become, earlier offering traditional food has become a status quo when you offer proper traditional food with good varieties. But now, when a person is asking you for a party or treat, you take them to a good cafe where you have lot of fast food items, where you have lot of sugars, and this has become a status quo. This has become a symbol of status quo. Youth are attracted to this to this fast food. It is not because they are craving for it, market is making them craving for it. It is also because they want to show their status symbol in the society. You know what, I have given treat, my birthday party I have given in this cafe, I have given my birthday party in this, in McD, in KFC. This has become done. Parents are not able to find time to cook food, and for that matter, stress in workforce, long working hours, and it is easy to order quick food, and for that matter, it is also easy to cook very cooked food, quick instant food. You see, nowadays you see instant recipes, instant upma, instant dosa batter. This is also being promoted. So everything you are getting at one click. That is also the reason why you see fast food industry is flourishing, outlining or overshadowing the healthy food habits and healthy lifestyle. So these are the different dimensions you have to write. As it is asked for 15 marks, you have to elaborate on all these dimensions. Okay, so this is how you have to address the demand of this question. And at the end of the day, you have to say that in this answer, you also have to write about the necessity or the need of regulation of government with respect to this fast food industries. Recently in many cities, a type of salt which has been additives, okay, the additives which we used in fast food industries, that has been banned. Okay, so like there was a you see in some cities mayonnaise has been banned. Okay, on the same lines, food regulation is also a need of hour. You have to always, a suggestion have to be included in your answer. If at all it is for 15 marks, you have to emphasize on that. Okay, you have to emphasize that definitely food regulation by the government, respect to governments is needed. And for that matter, you also have to talk about creating awareness. Unfortunately, awareness creation has been sidelined by the from this aggressive marketing. So on the same line, unique awareness, unique awareness programs, unique awareness campaigns has to be created. We have to promote like activities like yoga. Okay, so and then you have to promote like in parks, communities should be promote create awareness about healthy food habits. So this is also you have to try. So community measures are needed, government level measures are needed, civil society should take initiatives. And for that matter, let me tell you, the podcast has become a new avenues to create awareness. So you also have to take that civil society has to create more podcasts with respect to healthy lifestyles. Okay, so Samantha chala healthy podcast చేస్తుంది కదా, you can give that examples because they have asked to give experiences, examples. Okay, so this is how you have to write your answer for this question. I hope you are following the session. I hope you are understanding, especially students who are new, preparing for preparing you new aspirants. This session will definitely help you too. And for that matter, let me tell you, let me explain that what was the reason behind this question. Why UPSC has given this question is, I told you, World Health Organization has declared India as a diabetic capital. From then onwards, I was telling my students that respectively that this paradox will be repeated in your exam. Okay, I was predicting this question from long time. Okay, finally UPSC has given this question. And for that matter, you also have to understand that recently majority of the election manifestos in America was also fought or also centered around this obesity and all diabetes. Okay, so in 2024, in many campaigns, okay, many election manifestos of both the Democrats and Republicans talked about a serious concern in American society. What is that serious concern? Is rising obesity. And majority of the population of Americans has become insulin resistant because of majority have entered into type 2 diabetes stage. So that is the reason why these social issues of healthy lifestyle is a cause of concern. Okay, next. We'll be talking about a question called Mahatma Jyoti Rao Phule writing and efforts of social reforms, of his social reforms touch almost issues of almost all subaltern classes. Discuss. Okay, what is the question? Mahatma Jyoti Rao Phule's writing and efforts of social reforms touched almost all subaltern classes. Let me tell you, let me give brief background about this issue. I was majorly predicting a question on caste census. And in my classes, I have done this critical analysis of caste census also, because caste census, recently government of India have announced that this census 2021 census we are going to include caste data. Okay, so that is the reason why caste census was really on the cards. I thought UPSC will definitely ask a question with respect to caste census. Now when I was discussing about this also, I told that why India announcement of caste census is one of the major victory of social justice in upholding social justice in India. Why it is a major victory? Because it is a victory of subaltern groups. Okay, it is a victory of subaltern groups, because caste census were being demanded majorly by those political parties which are either Dalit political parties or OBC political parties, whether it might be BSP, whether it might be RJD, okay, whether it might be BSP, Samajwada Party, RJD, JD, okay, JD. So these political parties are continuously demanding to include caste data or include caste census in the national census, because this by through caste census only social justice can be prevailed, because the reality of the socio-educational, economic and political status of different caste will be under limelight, will be brought to limelight. Then based on the need, we can make proper policies. Okay, although caste census, I was expecting caste census, but in my classes I also tried to link that how the contribution of Jyotiba Phule led to the birth of these political parties. I tried to link also. So that is the reason why you have to understand that Jyoti Rao Phule's contributions. You have to understand that how Jyoti Rao Phule's contribution has led to birth of so many political parties. Jyoti Rao Phule's contribution has led to social, economic, political and cultural societies amongst the marginalized sections. Jyotiba's contribution has led to social, economic, political and cultural changes or cultural upliftment amongst marginalized communities. And the writings and the reforms suggested by Jyotiba Phule has led to birth of many political parties. When you are talking about Bahujan Samajwad Party, okay, the writings of Jyotiba Phule, okay, has inspired Bahujan Samajwad Party. Kansiram has led this Bahujan Samajwad Party. How Bahujan Samajwad Party has been formed is, when Jyotiba Phule has said that the major movement which is led by Jyotirao Phule is, he questioned Brahmin orthodoxy. He questioned the hegemony of Brahmins in political sphere, in every sphere. He questioned the hegemony and authority of Brahmins. And he tried to lead social movements. He tried to promote educational upliftment, social upliftment and cultural upliftment amongst non-Brahmins. And this unity of non-Brahmins was led by the writings of Jyotiba Phule. And this non-Brahmins unity is led to the birth of many political parties. And these non-Brahmin political parties were the cornerstone for demanding caste census. Okay, so this is a reason why this question has been asked. Although, for that matter, government, for that matter, whether it might be BJP or whether it might be Congress, whether it might be any political party, majority of the political parties in India are run by upper caste people. So these political parties which focused on the subaltern communities. I'll discuss what are subaltern communities. This first I'm trying to link you. What is the base of this question? Okay, these subaltern political parties were inspired by the writings of Jyotiba Phule. Okay, so this is a reason why under the limelight of caste census, you have to understand the underlying thought process which is being driven by Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule tried to promote unity amongst Shudra plus Ati Shudra. And when you are talking about Bahujan Samajwada Party, what is Bahujan? Okay, he emphasized on Ati Shudra plus Shudra union. Okay, when we are talking about Bahujan Samaj, Bahujan means nothing but literal translation is majority. In the society, who are majority? Okay, subaltern groups, Dalits, OBC, minorities are majority. But who are ruling? Majority is ruling. Okay, majority are ruled by minority. This has already been emphasized. This is the core principle of Jyotiba Phule, and caste census will bring this to limelight. Now you understood why caste census has, how we have to link caste census to this theory, which we have done in our classes. Okay, although we were more thinking on these lines of caste census question, but this was the underlying principle why they have given a question. So majority ruled by minority will be crystal clear when caste census is being conducted, and majority masses are ruled by minority has already given by emphasized by Jyotiba Phule, where he questioned the hegemony and authority of Brahmins. Under this only, you see DMK party has been formed. AIDMK party has been formed. Okay, Ambedkar led many political parties inspired by the theory of principles of Jyotiba Phule. Periyar were inspired by the writings and reforms of Jyotiba Phule. For that matter, when you are talking about Kansiram has been inspired by the writings of Jyotiba Phule. So this is how you have to discuss this question. Now, when we are talking about in this question, the major core context is what do you meant by subaltern studies. Once you understand the theme of the question, how you have to write, let us talk about what is this subaltern group. Okay, subaltern group. There was a theory called Antonio Gramsci. He said that any social group, okay, deprived of power and hegemony, any social group deprived of power and hegemony, that social group is called as an subaltern group. Now, with this explanation, now you can tell me who are the subaltern groups in India. Okay, women are subaltern group, minority is subaltern group, whether it might be sexual minority, religious minority, linguistic minority. Okay, women, minority, caste, lower caste, next class, peasants. These are all subaltern groups in India. Now, when you talk about subaltern group, Jyotiba Phule majorly talked about subaltern groups. His books, whether it might be Gulamgiri. Okay, in Gulamgiri, in his under his writings of Gulamgiri, he compared caste exploitation with slavery. Okay, how caste exploitation we see in Indian society, he compared with slavery in the slavery. Next, he talked about Satya Sodak Samaj. Satya Sodak Samaj is nothing but Satya Sodak Samaj led to the foundations, led to the birth of self-respect movement, focused on education of non-Brahmins. Okay, whether it might be Gulamgiri, whether it might be Satya Sodak Samaj. So you can talk about his writings and his reforms. For that matter, when you are talking about uh, uh, when we are talking about, okay, Satya Sodak Samaj, Shetkar, Shetkaracha Asud. This is being formed to talk about labor exploitation by Brahmin landlords. They talked about, the Shetkaracha Asud talked about peasants exploitation. He not only talked about women upliftment. When you say Jyotiba Phule along with his wife has started first girls schools in Pune. He started a rehabilitation centers for widowed pregnant women. He started he vouched for women's rights. So he talked about women, he talked about minorities, he talked about caste in his writings, he talked about class, he talked about peasants. That is the reason why you have to understand that Jyoti Rao Phule's writings and efforts of social reforms touched issues of almost all subaltern classes. So you start your discussion with what is a subaltern group, what is the definition of subaltern group, how Jyotiba Phule's writing, what are the, you can talk about these 3-4 books which has been written by and these 3-4 organizations which has been led by Jyotiba Phule, and then you have to give examples for each, whether it might be women, whether it might be caste, lower caste, okay, whether it might be peasants. So how he upheld, how he fought for the rights, reforms of every subaltern group. This is how you are supposed to write. Okay, is it clear? But you understood more than this model answer, you have to understand this reason why, how it is related, why caste census promoted, to discuss that. So anyways, if there is a topic in the news, new students who are just started preparing, you have to understand that background concepts, background relation with respect to caste census is very much important. Okay, any important recurring topics? Next. Do you think globalization results in only, please underline this word when you are writing answer, keywords are very much important. Here the question C, you can look at the smartness of UPSC. Do you think globalization results only in an aggressive consumer culture? Aggressive consumer culture. Justify your answer. Okay, this is a question which is being given. Do you think that globalization results in only an aggressive consumer culture? Justify your answer. See, globalization is the most favorite topic, and in your syllabus also, out of the 4 statements, when you look at the UPSC syllabus, the last statement is talking about impact of globalization on Indian society. So globalization is very important from examination point of view. Every time UPSC is talking about globalization, they were asking about impact of globalization on women, impact of globalization on youth, impact of globalization on farmers, impact of globalization on culture. Okay, because you see, earlier we have heterogeneity of culture. Now you see homogenization of culture. Means nothing but, what do you mean by homogenization of culture? Homogenization of culture means broadly we see, when you look at India's culture, the traditional culture of India is declining, the Western culture, Westernization is impacting India. So Western culture, you see the attire of us is more or less Western. Okay, so that is how you see traditional culture has been sidelined. So homogenization, culture driven by Western culture is being taking center stage. So around this UPSC has always asked, but this time they have asked very specific question. It is aggressive consumeristic culture. Aggressive consumer culture, is it promoting? How it is in promoting, and is it promoting only one way? Okay, so first you have to write a definition with respect to globalization. What is globalization? Is a process of, globalization is a process of increasing interconnectedness, increasing interdependence, and increasing integration of economies and societies. Okay, to an extent that even in one country, any issue in one country is impacting the issue in other countries. That is what is globalization. You can draw a figure also, economy, society, how this is leading, and this intermix is leading. This is what is called as a globalization. This is how initially you define what is globalization. So globalization is a process of increasing interconnectedness. Globalization is a process of increasing interdependence. It is a process of increasing integratedness of societies and culture. Okay, and to an extent that event in one country is impacting event in other country. For that matter, drought in India might be disturbing the global trade with respect to wheat or rice, because India is one of the major country with exports this wheat and rice. So that is what. So that is globalization. Now coming to the demand of the question, try to link that. Do you think globalization results in only an aggressive consumer culture? So you can connect this answer by saying that although because of globalization, many challenges has been emerged. Still, you see there are some advantages we see through globalization. You can write very simply, use very simple language. Language should not be that an issue. Then you tell that how this aggressive consumer culture is being promoted. Then you have to write that how we see aggressive consumerism is being promoted by globalization. Simple point, how this aggressive consumerism is being promoted. How is being promoted by these multinational companies? Through multinational companies are promoting this through advertisements, media, social media. Social media happening, and this you see how this aggressive consumerism is impacting Indian society. How it is, we see homogenization of taste is happening. Means nothing but everyone are habituated. Homogenization of taste is, in a simple terms, you can see this McDonaldization plus McDonaldization or Coca-Colanization. When you are talking about a meal, either it should be like fast food. When you are talking about a meal, traditional meal has been sidelined. Either it have to be pizza, either it have to be burger, either it have to be a glucosed water, aerated water. This has become so homogenization of taste, or for that matter aggressive consumerism. We see promotion of Netflix. Netflix is a every household phenomena. If you don't have Netflix, you are considered poor now. Netflix, intrusion of market into the family. You see everything. For suppose when you are, if there is a discussion of let me tell you how globalized aggressive consumer culture, how it is there is. For suppose when you are looking for when you are discussing that in our family there is a marriage. You see, you will be shocked to know that your phone feed will be filled with marriage related issues. Reels kuda marriage related vastai. Shopping kuda marriage is on the cards, so you have marriage offers. This is how you see aggressive consumer culture is being promoted. So artificial intelligence has been used to an extent that they are curating your curating your what you say, um, curating ads based on your choices, based on your mindset, based on your interest, based on your willingness, based on your opinions. This is what happening. And for that matter, this social media has become, has made, or for that matter apps has made everything delivered in one click. So Amazon, Flipkart offers, okay, whenever there is a Diwali, your home will be filled with orders, your home will be filled with shopping products. So like you can say, first user we are going to give off, okay, special season, special offer for you, special discounts for this season. This is how aggressive marketing has entered. And you see, this aggressive marketing is impacting culture. This aggressive market is also impacting religion. For that matter, religion has entered into your bedrooms. Okay, you can watch all the darshans which is happening all over the world live, and you can also offer all the products which is related with God even in one click. Okay, there is a concept called virtual darshans which is happening. So when you are talking about aggressive consumer culture, okay, so how this aggressive consumer culture is impacting us, okay, how it is impacting us. And for that matter, this aggressive consumer culture is also clearly making it, inequality has become, is being made visible with respect to this aggressive consumer culture. So this is how you have to write different dimensions how aggressive consumer culture is being promoted. But here, as I said, the keyword is only. Although you have to say that although globalization, aggressive consumer marketism is impacting us. For that matter, tomorrow you see, if at all a woman, last year there was a question. What was the question is, suicide rate amongst young women is more than suicide amongst young men. Why this is happening is, this market is exploiting women. This market has commercialized the idea called beauty. Social media has commercialized this idea called beauty. If at all there is a woman, if woman is not able to purchase the cosmetics, she will feel deprived. Okay, this way globalization has entered into our bedrooms, globalization has entered into your subconsciousness. This is the outcome of aggressive consumerism. But saying that, as you should take a balanced opinion. You should say that because of globalization also, we see positive impact. For that matter, India is majorly driven by patriarchal society. Status of women was not that good. Gender inequalities were very high. But because of globalization, when global values have been traveled from all over the world, especially with respect to traveling of global ideas from West, the status of women has changed. Because of globalization, many women got better employment opportunities. And because of globalization, you see, there is an organization called Tribal Federation. Tribal products are being now exported all over the world. Okay, so globalization is adjusting to the local needs. For that matter, when we are talking about McDonaldization, what McDonald's are doing, it is the largest outlet. But whenever there is a Durga Puja, ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే మెక్డొనాల్డ్ అవుట్లెట్ ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే, ఇట్ ఈస్ కంప్లీట్లీ గోయింగ్ ఫర్ వెజ్. మీన్స్ నథింగ్ బట్ గ్లోబలైజేషన్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో రెస్పెక్టింగ్ ద లోకల్ ట్రెడిషన్స్. అందుకని చూడండి, నెట్ఫ్లిక్స్ ఇప్పుడు చూడండి, గ్రేట్ ఇండియా కపిల్ షో అనే సిరీస్ వస్తుంది, దట్ ఈస్ బీన్ వాచ్ ఆల్ ఓవర్ ద వరల్డ్. వాట్ ఈస్ హ్యాపెనింగ్? బికాస్ నెట్ఫ్లిక్స్ ఈస్ ప్రమోటింగ్ అగ్రెసివ్ కన్సూమరిజం. ఓకే, బట్ don't you think Netflix is also acting as a medium to showcase Indian culture all over the world? Okay, that is happening. And for that matter, this aggressive consumerism is also like everything, health, everything is being aggressively promoted. So for that matter, promotion of, we have promoted aggressively yoga. That is also a good sign. You understand my point? So negatives are there, positives are there. That is how you have to balance this answer and write and try to take a balanced view. But definitely you have to incline more in this answer, saying that aggressive consumerism is not good for any economies. Aggressive consumerism will disrupt culture. It will disturb the healthy competitive practices also being disturbed, because aggressive consumerism will lead to surviving of local industries. Okay, so self-reliance will be impacted. Many local companies cannot compete with multinational companies. Okay, and for that matter, you have to say that traditional culture should also be protected. Intellectual property rights of local industries should also be protected. Traditional knowledge system should be protected, and it should not be a victim of aggressive consumerism. Should also be a concluding remark. Okay, that's the way you have to write this answer. Okay, now quickly we will discuss the last question. What is that? How does smart city in India, how the smart city program in India addresses the issue of urban poverty and distributive justice? So clearly outline the question is asking, the demand of the question is increasing urban inequalities and ineffectiveness. Is urban inequality increasing in India because of smart city mission, or urban smart city mission is able to address or promote? Is smart city mission able to promote inclusivity? Are we in a position to promote? Are we in a position to address urban inequality? Are we able to promote inclusivity? Or for that matter, are we able to promote sustainability? Or are we able to address urban inequality? Okay, this is the thing. Now, definitely urbanization was, when you are talking about urbanization, you have to understand that urban centers are the front runners of economy in India. When we are talking about urbanization, urban centers, although majority of the people live in rural areas, but the drivers of urbanization, the front runners of economy is urban centers. So urbanizations are the drivers of economy, and for that matter, when you are talking about urbanization and rural agrarian structure, what many sociologists have said is, compared to rural social structure in urban areas, caste discrimination will be less, because urban characteristics of urbanization is anonymity. Who are you? People are not concerned, but in rural areas, who are you is very much concerned, because they will be segregating you based on caste. In urban areas, anonymous. ఓకే, గేటెడ్ కమ్యూనిటీలో మీరు ఉన్నారనుకోండి, వేరే వాళ్ళకు మీ క్యాస్ట్ గురించి సంబంధం లేదు, ఏం పట్టించుకోరు. ఓకే, సో దట్ ఈస్ దేర్. అర్బన్ anonymity, homogenization, heterogenization will be there in urban areas. Means different caste, social reality people, different people from different social realities will be living in urban areas. So these are the characteristics. Even Ambedkar has also said that urbanization will lead to reducing caste discrimination. Okay, sir, why we are talking about caste discrimination is, you have to understand that unfortunately urbanization is not able to address these caste inequalities. Okay, increasing slums is a symbol of reciprocating caste inequalities or caste discrimination, which is present in rural areas. We are seeing that in urban areas. Generally in rural areas, what happens is, there will be a temple. Okay, around this temple there will be agraharas, and there will be middle class, there will be dalits or subaltern, there are dalits or backward classes who are living in the outskirts. This will be the rural structure. Unfortunately, what is happening is, under the pretext of urbanization, under the pretext of smart cities, center of city means nothing but community, urban communities will be the center, heart and soul of the city. Outside these people there will be slums. So one of the major thing which we have to observe is, in rural areas, okay, Dalits or untouchables were secluded, were living in secluded places. Unfortunately, even in urban areas, this is been a reality. Slums, more than 95% of the slums are from OBCs or BC or backward or Dalits. Okay, majority of the people in urban, in these slums are, for that matter, you see, are from lower caste, or majority of the people in slums are working as a domestic helpers or working in informal sector. Their plight has not been changed. In urban areas, when you are talking about smart city mission, what happens is, smart city mission, okay, when you are talking about smart city, you have to understand that smart city program should focus on health, sanitation and safe drinking water. Okay, so listen carefully. How does smart city in India address the issue of urban poverty? First, I am giving you a brief idea, then we will try to see that whether smart city mission is able to address urban poverty or not. Okay, how to make, or we can give suggestions also how to make the smart city program more inclusive. But what are the issues plaguing urban societies is that, one is, in the slums, sanitization, safe drinking water is not been promoted. And for that matter, recently there is an article, with respect to, a sociologist have written an article. There was an article which says that surveillance is more in slums. Surveillance is more in slums. What do you mean by surveillance is more in slums and less in heart of the cities? Means it is a prejudice which is been seen in administrators, that people who are in slums will be leading more to criminal activities. But don't you see, this is a new form of discrimination even amongst people in slums. It is nothing but, if at all you want to install CCTV cameras, let me decode it very simply. If you want to install CCTV cameras, you have to install all over the city. Why you are installing? Why the intensity? Why there is intensification of surveillance in slums? Because of prejudice towards the people who are located in slums. This new forms of inequalities, when you are not talking, when you talk about inequality, you should not only talk about health, sanitation and all. You have to talk about new inequalities. That is why there is discrimination, why there is intensified surveillance in slums. Why, when a crime happens in a heart of the city, why people conduct research search in slums? These types of inequalities have to be addressed. Unfortunately, the so-called smart city missions are not able to address. Anyways, now we understood what is the background behind this question. How does smart city in India address the issue of urban poverty and distributive justice? Definitely, see, how, when we are talking about positives, so how does smart city mission address urban poverty? SCM address urban poverty is the focus in 2015 smart city mission has been launched. The focus of smart city mission was to promote sustainability, was to promote safe drinking water. And the worst victims of unsustainable practices in the world are downtrodden societies, whether it might be women or lower caste. For that matter, you see, when we are talking about, now we are talking about climate change, when we are talking about sustainable development, when we are talking about clean technologies, when we are talking about reducing emissions, why we are mere concerned about this is because the first victim are the most affected victim of climate change or lower countries. That is the reason why we are talking about adaptation and mitigation. And adaptation and mitigation should focus more towards lower income countries. On the same line, Smart City Mission is promoting sustainability. When sustainability is being promoted, definitely lower castes or lower classes will be benefited. Under Smart City Mission, if you are promoting infrastructure, definitely, if you see, the point here is Smart City Mission should promote infrastructure, but that infrastructure should be inclusive. Under Smart City Mission, you are promoting apps, but many lower sections are not able to access app. So digital divide is one of the major thing. Urban Smart City Mission should try to reduce this digital gap. Under Smart City Mission, we see e-governance are being promoted. Definitely e-governance measures have led to upliftment of lower sections, because you see, you promoted inclusivity. For that matter, what you say, corruption has been decreased. Okay, so as corruption is decreasing, direct benefit transfers is been promoted. So, and for that matter, Smart City Missions, in every smart city there are some areas designated for street vendors. And under Smart City, we are also trying to promote increasing electricity. We are trying to promote fiber optics. So definitely, Smart City, when we are talking about the principles of Smart City Mission, definitely principles of Smart City Missions try to address urban poverty by promoting e-governance, by promoting sustainability, by promoting safe sanitation, by promoting safe drinking. But the point here is ineffective urbanization or smart city missions not able to promote inclusive growth is a challenge. That is the reason why, as we are not able to promote inclusive growth, that is the reason why we see slums are been developing. So to address this point, what we have to do is very important. This is been given by a sociologist, that in situ slum development. Within the smart city, you have to promote in situ slum development. Slum redevelopment should be happening. In situ slum development should be there. Digital divide should be addressed. And why, for that matter, political emancipation of rural, of lower caste in urban areas should be there. Why should always be politicians in municipal commissioners, all these areas? Why there should be only politicians from upper caste? So political mobilization should be happening, digital divide should be happening, safe drinking water should be promoted. So this is how you have to discuss about smart city mission. Features, yes, there are certain features which is promoting distributed justice, but unfortunately these features are not inclusive, as non-inclusive, as many measures are not able to include the major strata of the urban areas. That is the reason why we have to promote inclusivity. Okay, so when it comes to this smart city mission, you also have to say that another challenge with respect to this is very unique point. You have to write this thing. I discussed this in detail. See, under smart city mission, we what we are doing is we are promoting 100 cities. Distributive justice గురించి ఇచ్చారు కాబట్టి ఈ పాయింట్ రాయాలి ఖచ్చితంగా. Listen carefully, చాలా important. Smart city missions, you are talking about 100 cities. Definitely urban centers are the growth mongers, or urban centers are the growth drivers of any nation. Urban, that is the reason why we have to promote urbanization. That is the reason why we have to promote smart cities. That is there. But when you are talking about smart cities which are being promoted in only 100 cities, but don't you think in India there are not only there might be 100 top 100 cities, but we are talking about small towns, villages, small towns, villages. There are so many small towns, villages and all, but majority of the people lives here. But under smart city mission, you are spending thousands of crores in smart cities and you are not spending anything on the small areas. Now don't you think this itself is not a distributive justice? This point also you have to write. So this is how you have to write. And you can also talk about, when we are talking about in situ slum development, as I said, Ahmedabad, Bhopal, in Mumbai, we are talking about in situ slum development. We are also talking about We are also sociologists are also talking about reducing prejudice. It is not infrastructural prejudice, mental prejudice also, mental construct which is there towards slums should also be reduced. So this is how you have to write holistically with respect to smart city. Okay, so these are the broader questions. I think I did not give model answers. I have explained every topic in detail. But more than this explanation we'll discuss in our classes also. If you write from this perspective, you will get good marks. If you are missing any dimensions, you are not able to get good marks. But newcomers, okay, or new aspirants who are looking this video, try to understand the background. What is the intention behind UPSC giving these questions? Okay, how you have to write answers. Okay, I don't depend on this model answers. That is the reason why I try to explain you the story with respect to this, why they have been given. Okay, so thank you for attending this session, and all the best. Thank you.